Today's guest started in multifamily when he was just 17 years old, and after a few short years, rose up the ranks as a property manager and then transitioned to being an investor and owner operator with 195 units in his portfolio. And he's not stopping there. Today, we sit down with Kylan Yarbrough, and he talks about his journey into multifamily and also why he's launching a new software to help owner operators take more control over their investments. This is an inspirational story filled with a lot of great insights, but I love the intentionality this young man exhibits when it comes to going after his goals. This is a show you don't want to miss, especially if you're looking to scale your portfolio. Check it out right here on Multifamily Insights. You probably got interested in real estate for the cash flow, the tax advantages, the equity appreciation, and the long-term wealth creation, not for the 2 a.m. emergency maintenance calls. But let's face it, maintenance can be the biggest headache when it comes to building up your real estate portfolio. And that's why I want to tell you about a new property management software called HemLane. See, HemLane is more than your typical software. It's really like having a property management support system. First, HemLane provides 24/7 repair coordination. They have a network of vetted maintenance technicians and professionals in your area to handle repair and maintenance your property may need. Second, HemLane helps you advertise your listings and even connects you to licensed agents to help find and place tenants. And third, HemLane is ranked #1 by Gartner with an average of 4.8 star reviews on repair coordination. Learn how HemLane can help you manage your properties with 100% transparency and control without the administrative work. And as a Multifamily Insights listener, you will receive 25% off for 2 months when you sign up. Just go to hemlane.com, that's HEMLANE.com, and use Multifamily Podcast 25 as the promo code. Again, that's hemlane.com, or just click the link in the show notes. Now, Kylan Yarbrough began his journey in multifamily real estate at the age of 17, just 17. Now, rapidly, he progressed from a porter to regional property manager by the age of 19. Now, today, he focuses on asset management and property management with a specialty in older vintage value-add multifamily properties. Now, Kylan currently owns 195 multifamily units and brings unique owner-operator perspective to every project. Let's welcome to the show, Kylan Yarbrough.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. That was a great introduction.
Hey, Kylan, great to have you on, man. I'm super excited to chat with you. I mentioned during that bio that you got started just 17, man. You got to fill in
Correct.
some of the gaps there and bring us up to current date.
Correct. So, honestly, I wish that I could have started before 17, but whenever COVID happened, I said that was a curse, but a blessing to me. It allowed me to learn what I truly wanted to learn. Before you turn 18, you can't take a tour by yourself. So I used to just drive every single apartment complex in the HEB area. And at first I'm like, what am I looking for? And by the fifth property, I noticed that this property had more light fixtures, which could reduce the crime rate, which can increase the leases because it's normally a female that's the decision maker. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I just started learning small metrics. And once when I graduated high school, I started becoming a porter just to understand the landscaping perspective. I moved up to make ready to see how can we efficiently do a turnaround unit, moved up to leasing. How can I increase the pipeline? How can I get the most leases by making a rule of thumb? We can talk more about that later. And then assistant manager, how to understand delinquency. And we talked briefly about it before we recorded, but I had a interview for a property manager position with Wellington Realty. And I ended up becoming a regional within a week of being hired. So it was pretty cool for me to oversee the whole portfolio at the age of 19.
Man, that's incredible. Wow, what great growth you've had. And look, I want to run the clock back, right? Because whenever I talk to folks who hit the ground running at such an early age, I know it didn't start when you were, 17. So what triggered you to even get into this space, man? Most of the kids your age, right? They're fantasizing about graduating high school and being done with school and maybe bumming it for a year. And you were over here driving properties, not being able to tour it yourself. So you just would drive around and see what you see and trying to teach yourself. So what
Correct.
sparked this passion and this desire to learn about multifamily investing?
I always knew that I wanted to do real estate. It was just always something ringing in my ear. Keep in mind, nobody in my family started off in real estate. I really don't even know anybody in business. When I was a leasing consultant, I worked at Men's Warehouse for my second job just to learn how to dress with suits and ties. But I just always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Real estate always rang the bell. And I just took the leap of faith just by studying it. I came across bigger pockets. I heard about the residential side, and then I saw Grant Cardone talking about scale. I was like, yep, I'm locked in. I love the cap rate. I love the recession proof. I love the appreciation, the forced appreciation. There's different ways to appreciate a deal. We could talk about that later as well. But just the benefit of being bigger. Normally, whenever you hear bigger numbers, people are like, bro, that's a lot of millions of dollars. But in my head, I'm like, that's pretty small. I'd rather want to have a $60 million deal than a $20 million deal because there's so much benefits that comes behind it. But obviously that took time and experience to learn, but just leap of faith. And I think that's what anybody that's an entrepreneur has to do is just leap of faith. And I just finally did it.
So some of us, even more seasoned investors, they don't really understand all the inner workings of the property manager, right? So we know the leasing agent and some of those titles, but you mentioned you start as a porter. Can you
Correct.
break down kind of what does a porter do and talk about that transition to being a regional manager?
Yeah. One thing I can say, if you can keep your porter to stay, like kudos, because that's one of the easiest turnaround positions. But basically, I'm picking up dog poop, cleaning the pools, um, doing trash outs. But I was always the reason why I moved up so fast is because I was always eager to do the higher position. Like I wanted to do make ready while being a porter, while leasing. I wanted to do assistant manager work. But the reason that I want to start as the porter is because I want to be ground up. I want to really understand whenever I'm looking at it from a higher level, in terms of asset management or just a regional perspective. I know how to do each job, which allows me to communicate better to my staff. Um, and people don't really understand like how impactful it is to have a great porter because at the end of the day, before somebody tours your unit, before somebody puts in an application, before somebody wants to stay, they're looking at the land appeal. So if you don't have a good curb appeal, then they're not going to want to stay there. So um, I just understood the benefit of understanding each position in property management. It worked in my way that I moved up so fast, but it goes back to the board. What do you envision and how do you want to execute? When I was 17, I said in 4 years I was going to become a property manager. 4 years I was going to get my first deal. I was able to speed that process up a bit, but that was only because I had a vision in place and I just kept executing.
I love it, man. You gave some great insights and, just to broaden this up for our listener. One thing is approach each job with intention, but also approach it with eagerness and energy. You talk about being a porter with excitement. I've never heard someone have when they talk about picking up dog poop. I mean, you could talk about picking up trash and picking up dog poop, and but I mean, think about it. Those tasks and jobs are so disdained by your average American
Yeah,
that we have to get folks wearing orange jumpsuits to
yeah,
pick up trash on the
yeah,
road, right? Like
yeah.
like it's a work release program for prisoners, and this is something you were doing with enough energy to say, hey, not only can I do this, but I can help you trash out these units. And obviously, property managers are like, all right, kid, come on over here and
And
help us
and
out.
and I'll say this: you're honestly the first person that brought up that point of view, and I really appreciate you for saying that. When I was a porter, I'm listening to a podcast the whole time of real estate multifamily, and I'm just saying, thank God. Like, even though it's an easy job to get into, I was just so thankful that I was able to be in the industry. I was able to just be around property management to understand operations. That's all I was thinking in my head. When I was 17, until this day, I call property management my college. I know people who go to actual college. This is my college because this is what allows me to learn to become a better asset manager. But this is what opened doors for me to get on this podcast today, open doors for me to get 195 units, and open doors for my soon to be software that I have in place that I'm super excited about that as well.
Man, I mean, I can tell already that you're going big. You're already in big places, but you're going to continue to thrive and do well. But the big thing here is attitude and energy, man. It goes so far. And if you're in a slump, you know, maybe step back and look internally. Like I think a lot of times we get comfortable as humans. Maybe there's a little bit of expectation that we have or a sense of entitlement, whether you want to label entitlement or not. But what I love in hearing your story is you approached every task, every job, every role with intentionality and energy. And that opens up so many doors because you probably stood out. And I'm sure that energy was infectious and contagious and people wanted to see you grow and continue to see you succeed. Can you talk
Correct.
about really that transition from kind of the property management role and working on that side of it, just starting to branch off and be an owner operator?
It was pretty amazing. One thing that I realized once when I did take over Avanti, which we now name Miranda, is there's so much that I still need to learn. Like even though that you know a lot of things on the operational side from property management, there's things that you still need to understand from the ownership side. So that's why I'm really truly grateful that I'm able to merge both of those together. But just being around successful people, being around Gabe, being around Aaron Katz, being around Brandon Martinez, Sean Griffin, the list goes on and on of people that has the name of the business. 9 times out of 10, when I go to events and I mention their names, people already know of them. So just the credibility that I've been able to establish, just the experience and questions that I'm able to ask them on a daily basis, just our weekly calls that we have with the ownership group and the management company, has truly impacted me a lot just by being around my mentor. And in a span of a month has made me learn more things than I learned in more than a year. So I'm definitely appreciative over what happened after I closed on my first deal, and I'm stoked to close on more deals. But right now, I'm really focused on that software. Um, right now,
Talk to us about that mentality transition, right? Because it's one thing when you are on the PM side. I think it's another thing when you close on your first deal and you're in charge of everything, right? I mean, ultimately, when you're the property management side, you you kind of know what you're trying to do and you're doing your job, but you're not the one that's gonna feel it if
yeah,
occupancy takes a dip or there's a big expense that comes up. When you're the owner operator, everything is relying on you, right?
yeah.
To put the right team in place to set the vision, to set the tone. Talk to us about kind of being in that seat as opposed to being on the PM side.
Honestly, you're probably just expecting a different response from me, but my mindset that I had from day one was always thinking as the owner. So it came natural, if I'm being completely honest. And that's one thing that I've always told people, like even being a porter or being a leasing, being an assistant manager, I'm always thinking as the owner, how can we execute the business plan? How can we execute the KPIs? How can we increase the bottom line? Um, so whenever I made that transition, the way how I was thinking, the way how I was talking was honestly exactly the same. I think it's more so of just preparing yourself mentally, physically. Obviously there's more responsibilities, of course, but I think the journey that I had before I became an owner is what I can appreciate the most because I already came in with that mindset. Even if you talk to my mentor Gabe, I was a little bit hard on the staff in the beginning stage when we first took over, which I learned you can't really do that on the ownership side versus the management side. You have to be like let them figure out for themselves, and it's more of like encouragement instead of task because that's where the property manager and the regional manager comes into play. So that's one thing that I had to learn, but everything else I was already thinking the correct way, in my opinion.
I think it goes back to a theme though. When you have clarity on where your real goals are, you can approach it with the right mentality. And you were doing that day one because for you, it wasn't picking up trash. You were treating it like an owner. You were walking that property like you would expect an owner. What do you see? How do you do this? Is there a better way of doing this? Like you were taking notes and learning and processing and preparing the entire time. And I go back to our listener, you know, are you approaching your task with intentionality or are you just doing it to get done, right? We got a whole generation of people, right? Like younger folks are starting to develop this reputation of, being the quiet quitters and all these terms they keep coming up with,
Yeah.
right? But in fact, they're just saying like, oh, these guys don't want to work. I think there's a realization that many of them recognize that, hey, maybe this isn't the exchange I was shooting for as far as my time in exchange for money. For you, it was different because you knew it wasn't just about the time and the money. It was more about what you were building and trying to create. So I think it's really important for you just to think about that. What do you really want? And how do you put yourself in a position and on the track to get down that pathway? Because I'm sure you could have done other things that maybe made more money, but you took
Mhm.
this job and this role specifically, it's funny, you mentioned it earlier, I didn't comment on it, but you talked about working at Men's Warehouse just to learn how to dress, right? Like you were locked in on, all right, here's where I want to get. How do I get there? Okay, I gotta solve this problem. I gotta solve this problem, get this experience, and learn this part of the business. And when you set that up, the pathway becomes really clear. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's really helpful for our listeners to understand what it takes to succeed, especially when you're starting from zero. And like you said, you didn't have family, you didn't have friends in the real estate business. So you were the one who had to, pioneer this, learning by yourself on Bigger Pockets and listening to podcasts and things like that, but ultimately putting yourself in a position to be able to grow and to be able to scale. Let's talk about the business. And you mentioned the software. So tell me a little bit about the software. Tell me a little about your vision for the business
Of
and where
course.
things are headed for you moving forward.
Of course. I can't say too much. I don't want nobody to steal my idea, but what I can say is, over time, uh, working in property management, I've done different software such as OneSite, Resman, AppFolio, Yardi, the list goes on. And I noticed that when it comes to data, they normally tell you the percentages and all of that, but they don't give you the ownership language. They don't give you the resolution. They don't give you daily red flag alerts and forecasting red flag alerts. And I think that's one piece that the industry is missing, especially because not everybody knows how to really truly operate. Most people come from capital raising. Some people are good at marketing. Some people are good at social media. There's different ways to become an owner. And that's one thing that I want the audience to understand is you don't have to come with a lot of money. You don't have to be this great asset manager. There's other roles that you can do for the team. Um, but yeah, so one thing that I noticed is there's not a lot of great operators. So my software is basically going to be integrated with a KPI dashboard, a red flag alert that's going to be automated. It's going to send over to your emails, to your text messages, also a resolution. And with this, it's also going to have an engagement score for the property management company because most people, they don't really understand how badly their management company is running their properties. Um, I can tell you a lot of examples of that. So it's pretty cool. That's all I can really say right now. But it's something that's missing in the industry, and I feel like the reason why it's going to be great for me to build this product is because I already came from the property management background, the ownership background. So I'm going to know how to correlate the language together.
What I'm hearing you say is property management software for apartment owners, not necessarily property
Correct.
management companies. Yeah. I love
Correct.
it, man, because you're right. There's definitely a gap. And for anyone who owns properties, one of the challenges is like you still have to go through the PM software. So they'll typically give you like an owner's access code or account where you can log in kind of through the back door and check out certain stuff. But you can't access everything and you don't know. And to your
Correct.
point, there's still a proactive nature of property management where you're hoping and expecting property managers to be on top of it. And if you talk to any
Correct.
owner, I would venture to say, and you tell me your thoughts. I would say if you ask any apartment owner what their biggest challenge or concern or complaint would be, I would assure you, 4 out of 5 people, if not more, would tell you it's something with their property manager.
Correct.
And
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 they don't know the correct actions, the correct questions to ask, or how to follow up with the situations before it's too late. And that's where my red flag alert is going to help out at. And back to your point with the reports. Some reports, when we do closeout, some of those reports are 150 pages. So my software is going to have an AI reader that's going to directly pull out of those reports, skim through it in a matter of 10 seconds. There's more features that's going to be added on.
But don't give it
Uh,
all away, man. When I drop this, I don't want somebody to
yeah,
take your stuff and run it, man.
yeah,
When
yeah,
when do you
yeah.
when should listeners expect this software to be available?
I'm fairly new with this software. I just finished my prototypes actually this week. So the next steps is the automations and then the finalized product. So maybe within the next month to 2 months.
Oh, that's not too bad. Okay, well,
Yeah.
so maybe by the time you're listening, this is live. What we'll ask is, did you give us the website? You can just email me afterwards. Give me the website. We'll drop that into the show notes so our listeners can check it out. I'm sure you can put up a coming soon or something like that if it's not live yet,
Perfect.
but that'll be awesome. Yeah, so talk a little bit more about that transition, right? You talked about kind of some of the challenges you've seen, being on the property management side and maybe some things that owners don't know. As an owner and speaking to owners, what's one thing you wish owners knew about property management that would help them get the most out of their assets and the operations of the projects?
Got it. One thing off the rip is what type of educational resources does the management company have? Really understanding their corporate, because most turnover from the staff is not because of the property itself, it's because of corporate. So
And real
if you're
quick,
really
Kylan, when you say education resources, you're talking about training support for
training,
the staff. Okay.
correct. Some management companies don't even do weekly calls. Some don't even send them over training videos to go over with. Some of them, they're just sending over reports. Why is this not done? Why is this not done? But they're not actually going on site. So they're not actually seeing what's happening in the trenches. So I think that's one strong point that most ownerships mess up at, is they go for the companies that has a big portfolio. Sometimes that's not going to be good for you. Maybe if you have a 200 unit property, you might want to go with a smaller company, so that the benefit is they're going to be overseeing your property more if most of the units in their portfolio consist of your properties, which is a benefit that me and my team have with Burlington Capital. Is most of the properties in DFW tends to my team's properties. So they're going to have more attention on our assets. The leverage piece to reduce the property management fee is going to be in your favor because you're going to have more assets in their portfolio, et cetera. But I think that's the main point, is just what actual educational, can you see them growing the staff that's on site? Because if they're not growing internally, it doesn't matter what property they're at, they're going to want to go to another company that's going to help them keep moving up to that next level. So I think that's one piece that people are missing out on, and telling them, like, to actually educate their staff with understanding how ownership thinks. I came in already knowing the NOI, the cap rate, because after work I'm still studying until 12 in the morning. But um, most managers, most assistant managers, they don't really understand cap rates, how to increase the NOI, why our expenses are increasing, why our marketing is increasing, how can we close the door for renewals, all of that stuff, but from an ownership side. So I think if you're actually if you're actually informing your staff about that, it could definitely help out a lot.
Think it's really insightful. You mentioned two things that many owners probably don't think about, but when you're looking at a property management company, the first thing is you want to understand, are they supporting and setting up their employees for success? Do they have
Correct.
training and support? Are they doing educational videos? Are they teaching them how to be a great PM, how to do the right things, what to look for in properties, how to address certain issues, what red flags should they be paying attention to? Do they have this stuff set up? And I know a lot of times, as owners, I don't think those questions are being asked. I think you look at how many units do they have? Do they have any properties that are similar to mine or in similar areas of mine? And if so, do they have a couple referrals? And great, right? But I will say too, I think many owners recognize this is almost like I hate to say it this way, but it's like a necessary evil, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a saying that property management is like the hardest and the least desirable part of apartment ownership or commercial real estate. And I think it's because of these reasons, right? Like it feels like the last thing people care about is the least amount of profit for the property management company. So it feels like it's harder to create an environment where you have the right support and people want to thrive and succeed and have long careers and have upward mobility. So, I don't know how easy it is to find companies that reflect some of the values that you talked about, but those are great things to keep in mind. It's like, hey, what kind of support do they have? And then also, what kind of upside do they have for that employee? Does that person see a career out of it? And a lot of times, we don't necessarily put ourselves in those shoes, but is there a long term career for that person? Can they stay in this industry for 20 years and see themselves climbing that corporate ladder where they can take care of their family and do the things that they need to do? And if not, they're just going to jump ship and go to the next property management company because maybe they can see some upward mobility from that other company.
And that's a big ripple effect in today's time. Is It's really sad that most properties that you go to, most of the residents are going to say, "Oh, how long are you going to stay here?"
Oh,
Or,
wow.
"I don't want to talk to you because I don't trust you yet." Sometimes they don't even want to give you their money because they don't know if you're going to run off with it the next day. So When it comes to reducing delinquency and having a high percent of collections, most of that is because you know how to train the residents. So whenever somebody new comes inside the office, it's like a new baby again. You have to train them to understand your processes and how you think. So there's so many ripple effects by just having repeated turnover inside the office itself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That makes a lot of sense, right? Just having the same PM, the same on-site team, so residents are trained properly. They understand what the procedures are and able to grow. The other point you made going back was, even as you scale up into kind of the regional manager roles, a lot of those individuals don't understand the ownership side. They don't know cap rates. They don't know how these properties are valued. They're not thinking about it from an ownership perspective. So they don't have the appropriate lens to help identify potential challenges and then also to identify the right fixes for those challenges when they come up. So, whether that is alignment of interest, whether that is different strategies or tactics, a lot of them may not have that frame of reference. So they're going to do it the best they can, but they're not thinking about it like an owner would think about it. So that's
Right.
something else that we should pay attention to. Yeah. So
And
when we,
one easy way to help that out, like I could give you the perfect example. We just had a event a couple weeks ago, and it was a property management panel, and we had our regional show out to the event. Keeping them, letting them know and seeing your personal growth in the industry is going to motivate them even more to want to learn more of how to become a better regional, how to think as the owner. Just keeping them on your side can definitely help out a lot.
no, I
Because now they're
appreciate
not
that.
just thinking as your current properties, they're thinking about the future of where everything is gonna go.
Yeah, that's true too, right? And I would say as well, one thing that we've tried to do with our team is we just try to make sure we're keeping our eye on not just today, but the future. So a lot of proactive conversations, understanding where the market is headed. We try to check in with competitors as well as those marketing reps to understand, hey, what are you seeing from a leasing standpoint? Our lease velocity or traffic, is it dying down? Is there an uptick? Is there an uptick? So we're just trying to make sure that they're staying ahead of the curve so we can anticipate changes. We can strategize around, rent increases or decreases or concessions or anything like that as well, because it's important to just stay on it, right? What I know for us as owners, what we don't want is the, Monday morning quarterback approach where we're just looking at the numbers and we're saying, hey, what happened here? Why did this number go down? Or why is there less income? Or why is occupancy taking a dip? And like, oh yeah, we just had a lot of people move out. It's like, we got to anticipate that. We should be ahead of that. We should be seeing, hey, there's a change in what we would normally expect. We're seeing more, notice to vacates. We're seeing, delinquency increase. You should be monitoring those things so you can recognize where you need to make
Correct.
change. And that's obviously going to be something that we want the property management team to take the lead on. But as an owner, at the end of the day, you are the asset manager and you are the one
Correct.
who is ultimately responsible. So you got to kind of stay on top of that as well.
Correct. You're gonna love my software. I can't wait to show you the demo,
I
man.
look forward to checking it out, man. Look forward to checking it out. Well, listen, we will do that in a little bit. In the meantime, Kylan, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Of course. So it's Kylan Keys on everything. I'm primarily on Instagram. If you want to send me over an email, it's kylankeys@gmail.com.
There you go. You can check them out there. We're going to transition to our round of insights. But first, I want to let you know that if you are looking to learn how to be a better apartment investor, we have put together a free guide that you have to check out. It's 7 questions you must ask before investing in apartments. So download this free guide, learn these questions. It will cover market selection, the team, the deal itself, and help you understand where there is potential risk in the business plan. Check this out. 7 questions you must ask before investing in apartments. Just go to casmoncapital.com/7 questions. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. Give us a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Definitely one thing about property management, which is very weird. I don't understand this about property management. So we're basically thinking as an owner, we're doing all the operations, but there's so much conflict involved. So there's this property that I was working at and it was for sale. I texted the broker, I asked for the OM, the T12, the rent roll. I was going to do my underwriting. And basically 2 days later, the regional came and it was like, they have to let me go because I'm about to buy the property, or I'm trying to buy the property. And she was like, I've never had this situation a day in my life. I was like, well, I'm different, you know? At that point, I was like, you know, I don't want to do property management no more. I'm doing property management to actually become an owner, and now property management is firing me because I'm trying to become an owner. And actually, that's before I had got the interview to become a regional property manager. And when I became a regional property manager, that's when I met my partner / boss / mentor, Gabe. He went to one of the properties I was overseeing. He was shopping, and then I had a broker tour that same day. I met him there again. And then I went to Aaron Katz's event that same weekend and I met him there again. I'm like, okay, 3 times in 1 week, like we got to connect. So after that, the rest is history. That's why we're on this phone call today. So that was definitely my lowest moment for sure, was getting so hyped about underwriting a deal. The people that I was talking to at that time, they loved the deal. And I had got let go due to the fact that I was looking at the deal I was at the same property I was working at, which doesn't make sense because the owner, they're going to receive the same financials that I'm going to have being at that property. But yeah, they listed it as a management conflict. So,
I mean, that's a new one. We have not heard that one, but I appreciate you sharing that. Yes, that's a good one there. All right. Give me the digital or mobile resource you would recommend for our listeners.
Digital or mobile resource? Crexy. I love Crexy the most right now. I mean, obviously you can go to other sources for deals, but Crexy, it normally has all of the deals from different brokerage companies. So if you just want a quick glance into the market, I just take a look at Crexy first. But if you're a newer owner, I would recommend LoopNet. That's a great place to start off with. I mean, there's some deals make sense, but you normally use LoopNet just to get connected with the brokers. If the brokers are listening, I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but let's say you underwrite, let's say you call them and you're like, hey, I'm looking at this deal such and such. Let them know it's great. And then, just come back with feedback like, unfortunately, I don't like it because of this and this. But if you have any more deals similar to this, send it over to me. Now you have them in your loop. But one thing I learned about brokers is they love feedback. That's how they come up with a better whisper price and etc. So even if you don't like a deal, always give them feedback. Even if it's bad news, they'll appreciate it more than anything, because now they're going to put you on their list to send you off-market deals, because that's how they correct the story of the deal, to hear what other owners thinks of it. So it's a quick little tip.
That is a great quick tip. Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I finna sound like a bandwagon, but I'm gonna have to go with Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's the book that really opened my mind to expansion. Just understanding the employee box, the self-employed box, being an owner. That's what really was like, okay, that's crazy to like not pay no taxes at all. And then I thought about multifamily real estate. I got my first K1, so that was pretty cool to receive. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
A daily habit that keeps me focused on my goals is just doing it. Like, there's really, I can tell you all the motivation in the world, but I say this to my girlfriend all the time. 99% of the time I'm not motivated. I just keep showing up. As long as you keep showing up, you're gonna be good. Obviously, you can physically write it. Like, I normally write my goals on the mirror. But just showing up every day is the best thing that I can say. But also shifting your energy to work on a high level. So like, one thing that I do is just work out. Or if I'm tired, I'll do a couple push-ups. just to get me back at a high vibration so that I'm able to keep going throughout the day.
I love it. Give me your number one insight for being an owner operator.
My number one insight is, that's a great question. I gotta think on that one. I think my number one insight is just fun. Like, I like being an owner. I love the energy of other owners. Like, everybody always has great energy. Like you said, they're always going to want to teach you on things. But just knowing that every day is not going to be the same. There's always something that you need to learn. I think I honestly, like, I think it's just fun. If I'm being completely honest, I love just being an owner. I love the downside, because there's always going to be good things that come out of the downside, but just the main impact that I love the most, and that's why I really love property management, is actually creating a community, not being money hungry. There's a lot of people in this business that's money hungry. When I see a lot of people just post the cars, the lifestyle, that's cool, but that's not the true message. The true message is replacing all of the ACs, which what we did at my property, replacing the roofs, upgrading the interior, upgrading the amenities. Those are things that are actually helpful. And just being able to create an actual community, I love that the most. Because even like, for example, I have 195 units, but it's not 195 people living there. There's 300 to 400 people living there. So just being able to see happy people smiling, referring us to other people, that's what I really love the most.
I love it. Kylan, let's go in a little bit of a different direction, right? So you're in the DFW area. Give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
I'm going to say Shell Shack. I love seafood. So every year for my birthday, I'm always going to Shell Shack. But recently, I don't know, Wingstop is up there now. They make these crispy chicken tenders. I get them like every other week now. So I don't know. Wingstop, they're winning.
All right. There you go. Shell Shack and Wingstop are the two, man. Well, great stuff, man. I really appreciate your conversation. You know, loving the energy you bring to it. And I think the big insight here is really just be intentional. Be intentional with what you want, and then figure out the right pathway to get you there. But keep that energy, keep the excitement, keep the right attitude throughout that journey, because that's what's going to get you through and get you to where you ultimately want to be. From there, you talked about transitioning from being the property manager to the owner and recognizing that, hey, there's some gaps. You know, there's some system gaps. We're not really having all the notifications of what's going on. A lot of folks in property management do not understand what it means to be an owner. You want to understand from a cultural standpoint, like, is this company culturally trying to drive growth through their employees? Are they training them properly? Are they giving them upward mobility and promotion opportunities? And if not, you're going to lose them. So you certainly want to make sure that you understand the companies and the culture that you're working with when you're going to work with third-party property management companies. But then finally, as an owner, making sure that you keep your eye on the prize and you're looking at the right metrics, you're paying attention to the right data so that you can ultimately optimize that property to help drive sustainable wealth. Kylan, again, for folks that want to reach out, they can find you at Kylan Multi-Keys on social media, email address kylanmultikeys@gmail.com. Thank you again for being a great guest and coming to Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Of course, and one more thing that I want to say, I always say this at the end, always remain uncomfortable. That's one thing that I stand on. That's how I grew up so fast, is if you're comfortable, you're not growing in life. So if you're doing the same repeated steps every single day, just change it up, and you're going to notice a lot of progress in your life.
I love it. Great stuff. Hey, listeners, if you enjoyed our conversation today with Kylan, you should also know that we have our Multifamily Mastery Mastermind available. You can join that Multifamily Mastery Mastermind there. All you have to do is go to our website, casmoncapital.com. You can reach the contact us page, or you can go to casmoncapital.com/mastermind and get more information. With that said, Kylan's great conversation. We'll check you out on the next conversation, guys. Have a great day.